everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Gabby and today we are going to be talking about Teen Wolf. Now before I get into it, I have like 10 pages of notes, and the last time I had 10 pages of notes, the video was an hour and a half long. My Pretty Little Liars video. I think this video might be longer. It might be one of my longest videos yet. I'm gonna try so hard that to make sure that it doesn't get to that point. But if I feel like the things that I'm saying are relevant, I'm gonna keep it in. So get a snack, a drink if you have to. Make yourself comfortable, and let us just start and let us get into it. So this video is going to be pretty much in the vein of my Pretty Little Liars video. If you have not seen it, then I will link it, but it's essentially I watched the entirety of this show, 100 episodes. It wasn't as bad as Pretty Little Liars, because Pretty Little Liars has like 160 episodes, but I watched the entire show and I'm going to give my thoughts on it. This one is gonna be similar yet different to the Pretty Little Liars video. So for Pretty Little Liars, I've been watching Pretty Little Liars since I was like 15. I'm 22. I've been watching the Pretty Little Liars since it came out. It's funny because my sister was the one watching Teen Wolf. She's younger than me and I was the one that was watching Pretty Little Liars. So I caught episodes of Teen Wolf while my sister was watching it, but this isn't something that I would tune in every week to watch. So I've seen this show about like twice to make the video. The first time I watched it, and then I went back and watched like specific episodes that I wanted to watch in order to film this video. But the show is pretty easy to follow up until a certain point, but we'll get into it. So what is Teen Wolf? Teen Wolf is a show that premiered on MTV from 2011 to 2016. Through Teen Wolf, we get actors like Tyler Posey, Tyler Hoechlin, Mike King, Dylan O'Brien. Those are like the notable names that I can remember from that show. But the show is based on the movie Teen Wolf. I think there's a movie Teen Wolf and there's a sequel to the movie Teen Wolf. I have not seen that movie. It's a 1985 movie, and this show, apparently from what I've read, follows like a loose telling of the story. There are obviously other elements thrown in there because this show has 6 seasons, but it's based on the same premise. So what is the premise of MTV's Teen Wolf? So we have I was gonna say Tyler Posey, but Tyler Posey plays a character named Scott McCall, and Dylan O'Brien plays a character named Styles Stilinski, my king. So we get the first episode is where we get the grounds for the story, like why all of this is happening. So one night, Styles takes his friend Scott on a mission to look for a dead body. Okay. I know, once you get to know Styles, you get to know that he's like a bit, but we're getting there. So Styles takes Scott to look for the dead body, and while out in the woods, because why would you be out in the woods, Scott gets bitten by a werewolf. They figure out that it's a werewolf, and then you have this character Derek Hale coming in and then trying to teach Scott about being a werewolf. And then down the line they figure out that the alpha, because they don't know who bit Scott, but down the line they figure out that the alpha who bit Scott is Peter Hale, which is Derek's uncle. We'll get into Peter a bit later, and then that is the end of the first season, and then drama ensues, and the rest of the seasons just follow with them trying to save the town of Beacon Hills by fighting different supernatural creatures that pop up through the town. That was a good explanation. I think it seems like a lot, but it really isn't. The show flows very well, or at least it did up until a certain point, but we will get into it. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna break everything down by season, and what happened in each season and the main points that I'd like to focus on for each season. And then after I'm done with that, I'm going to go into some of the characters that I feel were important. I'm not going to talk about all of the characters in the show. If I talked about all of the characters in the show, I'd be here till Kingdom Come, and I do not want to do that. This video is going to be long enough, and I'm trying to not do that. I'm also going to be giving each season a ranking.
Something fun, something for the summertime, something for the girls to, you know, get ready and party to.
Season 1 is all about Scott getting bitten and meeting Derek Hale. So one of the plots that I liked in the season was we get into the hunters straight away. Not only do we get into the hunters, we get into the fact that Scott's girlfriend, the girl that he loves, the girl that he has a crush on, comes from a family of werewolf hunters. Not only that, Allison's aunt is responsible for setting fire to the Hale house, which is Derek Hale. She is responsible for setting fire to that house where they killed an entire family of werewolves. So in that house, there was Peter Hale, Derek Hale's uncle. So now Peter has been comatose for the past 6 years, and he's essentially been living in his mind, so he's like cognizant but he can't move his body up until like they don't clarify as to why Peter could move all of a sudden, but I think it's just the fact that he was healing, his body was healing and his mind was just like in that state. So Peter is one of the only ones that survived, in addition to Derek's sister Laura, who is the alpha at the time, and Cora. But we don't find out that Cora is still alive until season 3, I think. This might be controversial, but to me it's not. And this might speak to the kind of person that I am. But I think Peter was well within his rights to want to kill everybody in the Argent family. I'm gonna say it because I don't, and maybe it comes down to the fact that Peter is one of my favorite characters. The fact that everybody was so bewildered to Peter wanting to exact revenge on everyone that killed his entire family and left him comatose and burned for the past 6 years. The fact that everyone was like, oh my god, how could you? I find it hard to believe. Do I agree with Peter's methods? No. Did he have to kill Laura like that? No. But like, if Laura's the alpha and she's not doing what needs to be done when it comes to the Argent, like, all I'm saying is that I can see Peter's perspective, and I don't like the way that they tried to portray him as just like crazy because he wanted revenge. And when we get to like the later episodes, we see like flashbacks of Peter as a teenager. He was pretty fucked up as a teenager too, with like what he did to Paige and Derek. And I feel like the fire kind of exacerbated that process, and it made him even more fucked up. Like, Peter probably has some deep-rooted issues that nobody in this show wanted to admit, but I guess they probably came to terms with it at the end, because at one point they were just letting Peter walk around doing anything that Peter wanted to do, which is a whole other story. But once again, do I agree with his methods? No. Do I understand where he was coming from? Yes. Do I think it's like absolutely ludicrous that nobody else could understand where Peter was coming from? The next thing I liked about this season, it set up the characters pretty well for the most part, because I think the main characters of this season were Derek, Scott obviously, Styles obviously. We got to see a little bit of Melissa, Scott's mother, but we get more of her in the later seasons. Chris, there's a reason why I'm not talking about like going in depth about characters, because as I said, I'll like do it later and I'll talk about their evolution, because the character development in this show is one of the things that I think is pretty great. But I feel like season 1 set the tone very well as far as introductory seasons go. This might change once I'm editing because I'm always changing my mind, but I ranked season 1 a solid 7 out of 10. If I wanted to like push, like I wouldn't go lower than 7, but if I wanted to push it, I'd maybe give it like a 7.5. But in terms of like comparing this season to the rest of the seasons, it was decent. A lot of it was, and probably like budget, they probably didn't have like the budget to do a lot of the things that they wanted to do, because most of the transformation looked very gimmicky to me. But we move, and some of the actors were not acting. Like later we get like actors acting, but like the acting was like kind of like okay, and I get it. It was the first season. There were only 12 episodes and I found it beautiful. There was enough happening where it didn't feel slow, but it didn't feel like they were compromising on story just because they had a limited amount of episodes to deal with, which I thought was pretty great. Season 1 was a pretty good season overall. Oh, and I also wanted to add, and I'm gonna be comparing this to my Pretty Little Liars video a lot, because that's the one that I recently did in terms of like the setup of this video. That's the one that I recently did in terms of setups for this video. I think they do a very good job of making these kids, because I think Scott is like 15 or 16 in the first episode. They're sophomores in high school, I believe, and it makes it more believable, because in Pretty Little Liars I just felt like they just used school, or they had them be teenagers as a setting for just another setting that they could use. I feel like they actually, like Scott, Styles and them, they were actually trying to go to school, and they were in school for particular reasons, and they talked about classes and stuff. Scott was failing, obviously. You didn't really hear anybody in Pretty Little Liars talking about how they were failing, except for like Emily and that like 2 episodes, but but we move. So next season,
you're not gonna get the song the first time you hear it. After the second and third time, you're gonna be like, whoa, what is this? It sounds nothing like anything that's out right now. You know, the lyrics are very new.
Season 2. This is where we pick up steam, because a lot happens in season 2. And when I say a lot, I mean a lot. I don't know how they fit all of this into the 12 episodes that season 2 had, and it didn't feel overwhelming. It didn't feel that they left any like loose ends. Everything was pretty solid in season 2. So, and the other thing that I liked about it is that this show is very good at incorporating previous storylines into the new season. So in season 1, Jackson kind of figured out that they were werewolves, and Jackson wants the bite because I'm not even too sure exactly why Jackson wanted the bite. I'm pretty sure it has to do with overcompensation for something, because Jackson is a whole mess on his own. So Jackson is blackmailing Scott and he wants the bite. Not David. Derek ends up giving him the bite at the end of season 1, and they introduce this really cool topic where it's like, so after you get the bite, the shape you take represents the person that you are, and it would only make sense that Jackson would turn into the Kanama, because Jackson's an asshole. Let's just get that out of the way. And we get a new villain. So we have this Kanama, and now we are introduced to a new villain, Gerard Argent. I hate that man, but I'm such, like, every time I'm looking at a show, I'm looking at it at different angles. Gerard is just evil just for the sake of being evil, but that actor was acting his ass off. I don't even know his name. I should look up his name. I should look up the people who were Gerard was acting his ass off. Every time he was on the screen, I enjoyed every minute of it. So now Gerard is Scott's father, Allison's grandfather, and he has come to Beacon Hills. He is waging war on all of the supernatural, well, not all the supernatural creatures, that's a later season. He's waging war on all of the werewolves because they killed Kate, which is like, she committed mass murder by killing innocent people. I don't even know if he knew that that was what happened, but he's trying to do that. But at the same time, he's so evil because he's a hypocrite, because he wants the werewolf bite because he has cancer and he doesn't want to die from cancer. And I wholeheartedly like agree with that sentiment. Like, if I was in that situation, if I was Gerard, I knew that I was terminally ill and there's something that could save me, I would do everything in my power to achieve that. But he's such a hypocrite because Allison's mother got bit by Derek, I believe it was, because Derek was the alpha at that time. She gets bit by Derek, and according to Hunter Code, if you get bit, you're supposed to kill yourself. So he watched, he made sure that Allison's mother killed herself while he is looking for the bite to do his own dirty bidding. That man is evil, but it's so genius and brilliant at the same time, because you kind of expect like all of these supernatural creatures to, when they come to Beacon Hills, to have some sort of like ulterior motive, or you know that these supernatural creatures are coming to do evil. But like Gerard, he's just like a human, and that makes it a special kind of evilness. And also in this season we have Derek. So now Derek is an alpha, and Derek is trying to build his own pack. And when I tell you Derek was down bad in this season, I feel like it was like a turning, well, no, season 3 was more of a turning point for Derek, I feel. But Derek is trying to build his own pack. He starts with Isaac, and then he goes on to Erica, and then he goes on to Boyd. I have a problem. He had mentioned that teenagers are better suited to get the bite because they can survive it, because once you get the bite, you can either die or you can become a werewolf, or in Jackson's case you become a Kanama. But teenagers are better suited to get the bite because they can handle it better. So Derek was going around town getting these insecure, not even insecure, just getting these teenagers who are in such precarious situations. Like Isaac was getting abused by his dad. Erica was suffering from seizures. Erica had a whole host of issues, and Boyd was a loner. So you find this like this ill young girl, this guy who's being abused by this ill young girl. You're telling her, okay, if you get this bite, then you'll never have another seizure in your life. You get this one young kid who's getting abused by his dad, and then you're like, okay, you can fight back. And then you get Boyd, who's probably just looking for some friends, and then those are the people that you decide to bite. I mean, it's strategic in a way, but at the end of the day, Derek, that was some kind of, I have to look at your morals. You can say that he probably just wanted to help them, but still it looks kind of funny. And why would you bite all of them at the same time? I'm guessing it's because he knew that the alpha pack was coming and he wanted to have a pack of his own, and they were trying to fight the Kanama, so he wanted to have a pack of his own. But in this scene where they're all experiencing the full moon at the same time, you have 3 new werewolves all experiencing the full moon at the same time, fighting for their lives. Derek, it was a chop from the beginning. So you have that whole thing. In addition to Gerard, you have Allison and Scott with their Romeo and Juliet romance, because like, he's a werewolf, she comes from a family of hunters. You have this whole thing about Gerard trying to manipulate Allison. The other thing that happened in season 2, that's when Scott's mom finally found out that he was a werewolf, and I think that was a good idea. I think the person that Melissa, that's Scott's mom, the person that she is, it made sense to bring her into the fold, because it was like a plot device too, because then they'd have like a lot of things happen at the hospital, and she's a nurse, so it makes sense to have somebody on the inside. It was a good idea to have her included so early on, especially like towards the end of season 2. And oh, I also wanted to add, they do a very good job of taking all of these different storylines. So I just mentioned a lot of things that happened in season 2, and also Peter came back to life using Lydia because Lydia's a banshee. Peter found some way to come back to life. That man is a cockroach. He will never die. He'll never die. But they do such a good job of taking all of these intricate and different situations and then tying them so nicely at the end, where you're just like, oh, okay, that was a good time, that was fun. And I rate this season a solid 8 out of 10. It was really good. Now we are getting into excellent category.
Maybe it was too ahead of its time for certain people.
After season 3, Teen Wolf has not, it was downhill from there. But let's talk about season 3 first. Let us talk about season 3 first. So season 3 had 24 episodes, unlike the rest. However, it was split evenly into season 3A and season 3B, connected beautifully, by the way. But this is one of the best seasons of a show that I have ever seen. And I don't like, is it giving it too much? Maybe, but I enjoyed it. I base a lot of things based on how I feel. If you watch my ranking of the Studio Ghibli movies, then you would know that. But I base a lot of things just based on how I feel watching them. And season 3 of this show, not many can beat her. I fear. So as I said before, it was divided into 2 sections. And we'll talk about season 3A. Now, season 3A had a lot to do with the Alpha Pack led by Mr. Deucalion. The villains in this show are so good. The actors that they get to play the villains in this show are so good. Deucalion, that's a good actor. That's a very good actor. He brought something to that character. The way that he was playing that character, I was like, okay, now we see. So in season 2, they were already alluding to the Alpha Pack. I think it was like at the end of that season, they were alluding to the Alpha Pack. And I think the main premise was that they wanted, it's like a pack of alphas who gain power by killing their betas, and they wanted, I think in the beginning, like, the thing was that they wanted Derek to join their pack, so they made Derek kill Boyd in this episode, in this season 3A, and then they had already killed Erica. So there was that. But I think as the season went on, we realized that Deucalion wanted Scott to be a part of his pack because Scott had the potential of becoming a true alpha and a whole other range of issues. And then we get to know about Jennifer. Now, Jennifer is a Duroc. I feel like Styles in like this season, Styles was like, I can't believe the words Duroc and Druid and Emissary make sense. But Jennifer was a druid, and that's like an emissary. So she was to Kali, who was a part of the Alpha Pack. It's gonna make sense, I promise. She was like giving advice and stuff, but because in order to join the Alpha Pack, Kali had to kill everybody in her pack. She also had to kill Jennifer, but then Jennifer wasn't fully dead, and now Jennifer is a Duroc. Now Jennifer wants to fight the Alpha Pack, but in order to do that, she needs special powers from the Nematon. The Nematon, if you have not seen this show, I might be rambling, but the Nematon is this like, it's like a supernatural beacon is what it is. So Jennifer is over here trying to fight the Alpha Pack, but Scott is over here and Derek are trying to fight the Alpha Pack as well. Derek is down bad. Derek and Jennifer and Derek have a thing. It's a whole situation. So in order to bring power back to this Nematon, Jennifer has to make human sacrifices. So she has to sacrifice healers, guardians, philosophers, and warriors. So she had to do all of that. So in doing this, Scott's mom, Allison's dad, and Styles' dad, I don't like that man, Styles' dad, they were all going to be sacrifices because Melissa's a nurse. What's his face? Styles' dad is like a protector, and Allison's dad is like a warrior, I guess. So she was going to do that. So in order to prevent her from killing their parents, Styles, Allison, and Scott had to die for a couple minutes to give power to the Nematon. And in doing that, like, they left this like, in doing that, there are consequences, so you can't just die and then come back to life. So in doing that, there was like something that was left open in their minds, and then they had to close it. When I say it, once again, when I say it, it seems like a lot to do in 12 episodes, but they do a very, very, very good job of like doing all of this. We're gonna talk about Deucalion more when I get into all the characters, but let's talk about how Teen Wolf was giving you villains with backstory before the rest of the girls were doing it. Because we left off with Gerard. Oh, I don't think I mentioned. So the way that they defeated Gerard was that Gerard wanted to become a werewolf. So Scott managed to switch his pills that he was taking for his cancer, and he switched those pills to have mountain ash in them. So when Derek bit Gerard, like, he just got sick. He got sick and he started coughing up black blood, and that is how they got rid of Gerard. I don't think I mentioned that. I'll probably like edit that in the beginning, but anyways, so Gerard, we knew Gerard was evil, but Gerard created Deucalion. Like, they were trying to have a peace summit, and then Gerard killed all of his men, made it look like the werewolves did it. He put like werewolf claws on a club and started beating his men, and then made it look like Deucalion did it. That man is evil. That man is very, very evil. Very, 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 very evil. But Teen Wolf was giving the villains backstories. When they let Deucalion live, when they didn't do anything to Deucalion, Jennifer ended up giving him his eyes back. But when they didn't do anything to Deucalion, I was like, this is weird. This is suspicious. I knew that they were going to bring him back, but I wasn't sure in what capacity that would happen. But we moved. I was happy that he didn't die, because I'm just like, okay, you can use him. Like, this technically isn't his fault. because like same thing with like Peter, it's like all Gerard's fault. I mean, in Peter's case it's like Kate's fault, but Kate was raised by that man, but Chris was also raised by that man. But we move. Side notes that I have from this season. This is when we figure out that Lydia is a banshee. We can finally put words to what she is, because Lydia was just walking around looking at, finding dead bodies. I don't know why Deaton couldn't tell them that she was a banshee. That was weird. But we find out what Lydia is. They did, like, when they were doing the whole Nematon thing, they did like flashback scenes, and they tried to put this terrible wig. It's like moving like this. Oh. They tried to put this terrible wig on Tyler Posey. I'll see if I can put a picture on it. They tried to put this terrible wig on Tyler Posey, and I was just like, no. In the opening scene, when all of the when all of the ravens were crashing into the classroom, I was sat there and I'm just like, why are you guys just sitting down doing nothing? If I saw that amount of doves and stuff, like, or ravens, like, flying towards the window of my classroom, you best to believe I would have picked up my shit and gone, because now y'all, like, there's glass on the floor, y'all are getting pecked at by ravens. But we move. Derek was down bad this season. I feel like this is where the shift in Derek's character started to happen for the better, because at this point, like, you're down terrible. Where are you gonna go but up from here? In my notes I wrote this is exactly what I wrote. Episode 11, Derek is down bad. I don't know why I wrote that. I don't know what happened in episode 11. I thought that I would remember it, but apparently I didn't. I don't know what happened there, but I wrote that Derek was down bad in that episode. I think it had something to do with Isaac, maybe, or Peter was telling him that all of his pack is dead. This is also the season where Derek had to give up his alpha powers to save Cora, his sister, who just happened to be alive, and they brought back Cora for like that season, but then Cora never came back. So yeah, this was also the season that they told this was also the season that they told Styles' dad about all the supernatural stuff. And I hate Noah Stilinski. I hate his character. I hate the fact that he's a cop. I think he's the ops. I think a lot, like, I have nothing for that man. I have absolutely nothing for that man. And also, I rate, I have this down as me rating season 3A an 8.5, but I think it's a solid 8.5, but if I wanted to, I could push it to a 9. I really do think so. I think it's excellent television. Now we get into where Teen Wolf could never top this, but at the same time, if this is their peak, like if I was writing a show and this was my peak, I wouldn't be mad because it's excellent. There is nothing that I would change about season 3B, which is why I rated it a 10 out of 10. This is excellent television, and you know why? You want to know why it's excellent television? Because Dylan O'Brien carried Dylan. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. Yup. She ate that up. She ate that. She. I'm getting hype. Calm down. Dylan O'Brien carried this season. My camera's about to die. Dylan O'Brien carried every I had no notes when I was watching this part of the season. I had nothing to say. I had no corrections. It was just very, very excellent. So this season, so like after they like come back after giving life to the Nematon, it's the Nematon now since they've given it power, the Nemeton now becomes a beacon that will draw a lot of supernatural creatures to Beacon Hills. So as I mentioned before, after they came back to life, there's like their minds are like susceptible to different things, and this is how we get the Nogitsune. The Nogitsune, which is a dark kitsune, the Nogitsune possesses Styles, and then chaos ensues in the best possible way. This is peak Teen Wolf. If somebody wanted a season of Teen Wolf to watch, like just give me any season, I'd recommend season 3B. The show never did anything better than that, and I mean if you're gonna do that, might as well go out with a bang. Season 3 is also where it got pretty dark afterwards, because the show was like relatively dark-ish to begin with, but season 3 is where the themes intensified. You get Lydia, who knows how to use her power, well, is learning how to use her powers even more now, and she's like a banshee, which is a harbinger of death, so it has to be darker at that point. We'll get to Kira and why I'm mad about Kira, but what I do have to say is that I'm happy that they brought in like actual like East Asian people, because it's part of their culture, so that was good. And also I like the fact that they didn't necessarily like emphasize on the fact that she was Japanese either. Like obviously like they did, because she's a kitsune, but at the same time, like, it wasn't, oh, she's Japanese, she's a kitsune. It was just like, this is what it is. I've been doing some reading, and I'm not too sure. From what I've read, the way that they were displaying like Japanese internment camps in the show isn't necessarily what happened, but that was the only part that I'm kind of like iffy with on this show, but like everything else was excellent. Let's get into character deaths. Allison and Ethan were killed off in this season, and Allison's character was killed off because Crystal Bell just like decided that she didn't want to do the show anymore, which is fine, but I think they did her death scene in such a good way. I think it was satisfying, to be honest, when we're gonna get to the deaths of another one of these characters in this goddamn show, which I thought was completely bullshit. But her death, even though she was leaving, like the way in which she died, it made sense. A lot of my critique of Pretty Little Liars was that there were no stakes in the show. So a lot of it, like even like everything that was happening in PLL, like I knew that everybody would be fine at the end of the day. When I was watching Teen Wolf, like there were a couple times where I thought that Lydia was going to die. More than once. More than once. When Allison died, I was like, okay, any of y'all can go at any time, but after Allison died, I genuinely thought that Lydia was next. I am not gonna lie. In this season, we also got introduced to Icon House. Radley's sanitarium wishes that it had what Icon House has. We get introduced to it because fucking the Nogitsune convinces Styles that he needs it. The Nogitsune in Styles' like subconscious kind of convinces him to go to Icon House, where they find the dead body of the original person that was possessed by the Nogitsune. It was a whole thing, but and then they continued to use Icon House as plot movers. There's a whole supernatural unit at Icon House that only certain people know of and have access to. We find Meredith at Icon House. She becomes a really big plot point. She becomes a really big character like in the next season. So that was pretty amazing. Icon House is obviously like a plot device. Like they go there when they need, like, if you need something, find it at Icon House. But it's done in a very, very smart way, and not like with like Bradley that Pretty Little Liars tried to do, because that was kind of insufferable. But yeah, that was Teen Wolf's best season. That was the best era. Nobody is touching her. And after that, the show goes downhill. Now, it was gonna go downhill regardless, because season 3B is a 10 out of 10. No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yup.
Season 3 is a 10 out of 10. But so you're bound to go down from there. But then we get to the point that season 4 wasn't that bad at all. But then past season 4, we get to the point of like, is this the same show that I've been watching? And if so, then what happened? Let us get into it. I wanted to do this so I stopped because I needed to go eat and I was hungry, and I wanted to just like act like nothing happened. But since I'm a child, I like maybe you can't even see it, like I messed up my clothing since I can't eat properly. But anyways, back to the video.
I thought it was fun. I liked the beat. So.
Season 4 wasn't terrible. I ranked season 4 8 out of 10, which was what I ranked season 2. And I think on that level they're comparable. I think my thing with season 4 is that I didn't necessarily understand what was going on. So for some reason I thought that like Scott was the one that bit Isaac. But he wasn't. It was Derek, and I mistaken somewhere in the recesses of my brain when I was watching this show for the first time with my sister. I had mistaken that situation, but it wasn't. So Scott bit Liam, not Isaac. So season 4 just essentially follows a Deadpool. And this Deadpool has all of the names of all of the supernatural creatures in Beacon Hills. And if you remember what I said from the previous seasons, there was a Nemeton. The Nemeton draws more supernatural beings to Beacon Hills. So now you have more supernatural creatures. And with that, you have this Deadpool where you have every single supernatural creature that lives in Beacon. I don't even think it was like in Beacon Hills, but like Beacon County, you have all of those supernatural people. And this list is disseminated to like everybody that like everybody who can get access to this list has access to this list, and heads are rolling and heads are going for specific prices. So I think Scott was like at like $25 million, and at one point Liam was at like $18 million. So the premise of this season essentially just focuses on killing people are outside my window and it's so annoying. But yeah, the premise of this season just features on regular people killing supernatural people for money, so assassins for hire, and they're trying to figure all of this out. And within this season, Kate comes back because in the first season they had alluded to people being turned by Scratch when they thought Jackson was the second beta, and when Peter killed Kate, he like ripped her throat out. So his claws went deep enough, and then the person you are reflects the shape that you take. Kate became La Loba. I don't know how that happened. She became like Noel, like part werewolf. I don't know how Kate turned into what she turned into, but I don't even think that they explained it properly either. So there's that. Kate came back, and they start this episode. They go looking for Derek because somebody I think it was Kate found Derek, and Kate turned Derek into a younger version of himself so that she could get the Triskelion, and then they break into the Hale Vault. A whole mess. Now that I'm speaking out loud, I'll give this season like a 7.5. A 7 a 7.5 because it was confusing. Like how I said before that they're able to combine so many plot points and still have it make sense. This was the first season where I started to get very, very confused and I couldn't figure out what exactly was happening. So the Hale vault gets broken into and then they steal Peter's money, and Peter's money, $117 million that he has in bonds in a vault. Peter's money is the money that they're using in order to fund this Deadpool that the benefactor is doing. And then at the end we find out that Meredith was the benefactor and she ended up in the same hospital that Peter was at when Peter was essentially comatose and stuck in his mind. And because she's a banshee, I'm assuming that's why, because they didn't clarify, that's why she was able to like get into his head, I guess, and she was like able to hear his thoughts and how he was saying that he wanted to get rid of every single, so essentially the whole Deadpool thing was Peter's plan, but Peter was comatose, and Peter, like, I don't think Peter knew that she was listening. Like, it was a whole thing, and that was to the point where I was just like, okay, I mean, I guess this is cool, but the things that you guys have done before this are better than this plot. And then at some point in the season, Peter starts helping Kate. It was a whole, like, I honestly don't remember that much from this season. It was just, I feel like, I don't want to say it was a filler season, but it was meh, I guess. We went back to 12 episodes and honestly I couldn't take any more of that whole situation. So 12 episodes was perfect. They don't, in this, like, when Derek thought that he was dying this season, I guess he was evolving. He was able to shift into a full wolf, but they didn't tell us why, because I remember, like, his sister could do it, I think, Laura, and his mother could do it, but I think that was because they were alpha, so they didn't clarify as to why Peter was, not Peter, they didn't clarify as to how Derek could shift into a full wolf. This season, Cora was in season 3. Cora was never ever mentioned again. That was weird. I did not believe in that Kira and Scott relationship for the life of me. I don't know if it was the chemistry between the actors, because I think maybe it had a lot to do with the fact that Kira, to me, never fit in with the group. And I can't even say it's because she came in later, because I feel like they did a better job of assimilating Malia into the group. But I did not believe that whole Scott and Kira situation, not for the life of me, not one bit. It was not very convincing. When they were like, I love you, I was like, really, do you? I had to suspend a lot of disbelief for this. They just didn't act like they liked each other, in my opinion. I like Kate as a character. She's a crazy ass bitch, but my problem with Kate comes in, I cannot figure out how old she is, and that is a problem for me, because she first, as I mentioned before, the season started where she brought Derek back to an age where he trusted her. Derek was 16 and she kissed a 16-year-old, so I have a problem with that. And I'm pretty sure in the first episode, Derek was about 22 years old. Chris and Kate are siblings. I don't think that Kate is that much younger than Chris, and Chris has a fully grown 16-year-old daughter. So what age were Kate and Derek when they first started doing whatever they were doing? It's questionable. It is questionable. I'll just leave it there. What I liked about this season, though, is that, so Scott ended up biting Liam, and I like how they tried to introduce the second generation, not in the last season, because a lot of shows will do this where they'll try to, like, insert people to, like, continue the plots, not even continue the plot, but you can see the continuity if they did try to continue the show. I like that we had like Leah, Mason, and the rest of them for like 2 seasons, so I could be like, okay, I care about you, because you're not going to introduce a character to me in season 6 and then have me automatically care about what happens to them, right? So I liked that about this season. Overall, it wasn't terrible. It was just a step down from season 3, and I can't even necessarily blame it for that, because anything you put after season 3, it was going to be a letdown in my opinion anyways. Season 5 is where it just went from, it was all right, and it just went to bad. It just went to bad. I ranked seasons a 6 out of 10, and I'm being very, very generous, because if I lowered my ranking of season 4 to a 7, then season 6 might be a 5.5, and that's just, do with that what you will. The Dread Doctors season was a mess. I don't understand what the Dread Doctors were, which is surprising, because in every season leading up to season 6, there was an explanation for everything, right? If they just gave me the Dread Doctors just to give me the Dread Doctors, and they hadn't done any explanation of the previous villain, quote-unquote villains of the previous seasons, that would be one thing. But you've done such a good job of explaining everything very, very well for the past 5 seasons, even though season 5 wasn't my favorite. They did what they did with the Deadpool, and they explained it. I don't know what the Dread Doctors were. At the end, you find out that one of them is Marcel, because he was trying to recreate the Beast. I don't know why they were trying to recreate the Beast. I guess just to do it. So the whole plot, I couldn't get into it. The other reason why I think this was terrible is that it was too long. This season was 20 episodes, and there wasn't like a break like how they did in season 3. They just did 20 episodes of the same storyline, and it got boring, because they tried to, I don't know if they tried to overcompensate for the amount of episodes, so they wanted to fit a lot of things in, but it was just too much. So you had so many different storylines within this season that nothing felt fulfilled by the time that it was over. There wasn't like a successful win. So like for season 3B, like we defeated the Nogitsune. Season 2, the Kanama. But like this one, there wasn't like a hurrah moment in which you got for all of the other seasons. So I think they realized that, because season 6 they went back to the formula of season 3, but not very successfully. But we're gonna get to that. I'm going to give you a list of things that happened in season 5. Try to keep up with me. So Theo was introduced. He's a whole conundrum by himself. My whole thing is that when Scott and Styles were having that little whole tiff over their friendship, I'm like, Scott, why would you listen to a guy that you've known for all of 5 minutes over Styles? But so we had that. So then we had Theo influence the Scott and Styles friendship, Malia and Brayden trying to find the Desert Wolf. They didn't even elaborate on the Desert Wolf. I know she was trying to kill Malia because she wanted her powers back, I guess, but why is she killing a whole bunch of people? Like, if it's like just like a Gerard situation, because Gerard's just evil to be evil, then say that. But I couldn't get why she was just out here killing a whole bunch of people just for killing's sake. We had the plot line with the Dread Doctors making the chimeras. Deaton was there for some time, and then he wasn't again. They had Lydia up in Eichenhaus with Valak experimenting on her. He drilled a whole hole a hole, W-H-O-L-E, H-O-L-E. He drilled a hole into her head, and we just glossed. Val drilled a hole into Lydia's head. They filled it up with mistletoe, and then that was just it, I guess. We had the thing with the skinwalkers, who we know nothing about. Kira was having problems with her kitsune. We don't know anything about that either. Like, I think no, Shinko, her mother had mentioned that the fox is trying to take her over, but like why like would that be? Because you had a whole lore for the kitsune, so I think that could have been better. Like I feel like that whole thing was handled very, very wrong. The other thing that annoyed me, Kira's katana does not cut anything. Did anybody notice that? Like she would just be swinging and I'm just like, this sword, like this katana is not, this sword is not cutting through anything. What are you swinging at? Deucalion comes back. I didn't have a problem with that. Deucalion comes back and he ends up helping Scott. I didn't have an issue with that because I really like Deucalion as a character. Chris brought back Gerard. My thing with Gerard is that when they brought him back, so Chris gave him a plant and then he just started gobbling that shit up like it was the tastiest thing on earth. And my thing is that there was no explanation, or maybe I missed it because I watched a lot, I binge watched, so maybe this is just me not understanding everything. But Chris brought back Gerard with that whole plant thing. Was that like a cure for being a werewolf? Because like he was fine after that. So like, is Gerard human now? Is he a werewolf? Is he cured? There was no, I think they did it in such a way that I think that they expected me to know what was going on, but I was watching and I'm like, I'm still confused. Like, I don't know what's going on here. He got better when he ate it, but okay. But then Chris brought Gerard back because they were trying to fight the beast and Gerard knew about the beast. It was like an evil necessary, but we move. They were in this season, they were also trying to figure out what Parrish was. They find out that he's a hellhound. They told us about the Argent's family history. Crystal Bell came back in an episode with her terrible French accent. Mason ended up being the beast. It was just very a lot, I would have to say. And that's why at certain points I just kept getting confused and I was just like, we're missing the plot of this entire situation because we're diverting storylines. I don't even know why. Like, it was just much. The ending was sort of kind of satisfying, I guess. When Theo went underground, I was like, okay, finally. But yeah, that was season 5. I gave it a 6 out of 10. I mean, it is what it is. Like, and it wasn't much. It is what it is, and it wasn't much at all. So yes, now we get into the 6th season.
Where's the barbecue sauce?
Oh, I forgot to tell you we don't have any.
Oh, well, I'm gonna need a refund. That's something you should have told me before I sat and ordered the order.
Got barbecue sauce at the house.
I don't care. McDonald's is different from Kraft. I don't care. I want the McDonald's barbecue.
The 6th season was ass. So they went back to their roots, and the 6th season was, I think it was 20 episodes. I think the 6th season was 20 episodes. And it was season 6A and 6B, and season 6A focused on the Ghost Riders. So what the Ghost Riders do is that they show up, they ride the wind, they take people, and the people that they take are erased from people's memories. But for some reason, they said that something was keeping the Ghost Riders there. I think it was the man who was the Nazi that they kind of like glossed over a bit. But they never really clarified as to why they stayed. So they essentially have people erased from people's memories, and Styles was the first to go. Now, I know that Dylan O'Brien was filming Maze Runner Death Cure, and I know about his accident, but I'm just very like, I don't want it. I don't want it. I think Dylan O'Brien, he left the first or second episode. I think it was the first episode the Ghost Riders took him. And from then it was just downhill. it was okay, I guess. Like, they were trying to remember him. If I had a nickel for every time somebody said the word Styles in those first 10 episodes, I would be rich. I don't remember too much about the season because I was just waiting until Styles came back, and honestly, when he came back, I didn't realize how much I missed him because he brought something. Like, Dylan O'Brien obviously brought something to the character, but he just had like his awkwardness, the awkwardness of his character. He just brings a different vibe to the entire group dynamic, and I feel like that's one of the reasons that the entire group works anyways. Two notable things from season 6A: Styles and Lydia got together, and Melissa and Chris were cute. That's it. That's all I have for season 6A. I gave it a 5.5 out of 10. You know, yeah, that makes sense. Season 5 is a 6 out of 10, and then season 6A is a 5.5 out of 10. Season 6B was bad. It was I ranked it a 4 out of 10, which is like, in my notes I have like absolute garbage, a dumpster bin, throw the whole season away. I'm terrible, eh? So we have the Anukati as one of the villains for this season. So essentially what happened, the Anukati got out of the wild hunt, and it's like a two-faced creature looking for its other half, and now we have this new hunter named Monroe. The biggest issue with this season is that it was done before. We did the hunters in season 1 and 2. Gerard had his moment in season 2. We had the whole killing of supernatural beings in season 4 with the Deadpool. Just with the Deadpool, they were killing for money. Now they're killing for quote-unquote fear that is instilled by the Anukati. I guess the only new thing that was added was like Monroe, I guess, as a character, and I was so mad because the first like dark-skinned black woman, well, after Brayden, because like Brayden was there, but Brayden really wasn't there, but the first dark-skinned black woman that y'all have on the show, and this is I was so cheesed. I was so mad. She wasn't a very good actress. You know what, she could have been a decent actress, but like when you put her next to a person like Gerard, like it's just you have to be able to act on that man's level. And I honestly, like, I have no issue with her acting being mediocre to me, because I think that black people should be able to be mediocre, and that is a win for us. We should be able to be mediocre and get good roles, because I think that being black, just as soon as you're black, you just have to go over and beyond to get like a good role. This is not even the point of the video, but you know what I mean. It was good. White people are mediocre all the time, so she was fine. My thing is just that, like, the character wasn't even, she felt like Gerard's lackey, to be honest. At least with Brayden. Brayden is like a badass. Like, Brayden just does whatever Brayden wants to do. That's the feel that you get off of Brayden. But Monroe just felt like Gerard was just using her to get what he wanted at the end of the day. And I feel like her argument for why, and this is the show that brought this into play, because I wouldn't have even brought this up if it wasn't a topic in the show, but her thing was that she was mad because when the Beast attacked people, like, she was on the bus and they didn't check to see if they didn't check to see if there was anyone alive that was on the bus.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, oh, okay.
And my thing is, girl, they're trying to fight a beast. You think they, like, there's so many moving parts in this situation. You think they're trying to check for you? And then the second part of it was that she was just like, oh my gosh, like, you guys are terrible. You've done bad things. Like, people have died. And I'm just like, based on that logic, there are a bunch of quote unquote regular humans who do a bunch of things that kill people every day. So based on that logic, go hunt down, like fuck the human race. Everybody. That was just that was just weird. Like, I can see where they wanted to go with this season, but the execution was just poor because everything had been done before. I was reading up on this a little bit and people were mad that the ending was very the ending was very anticlimactic because they essentially defeated the Anunnaki with mountain ash. I didn't see it that way. I kind of liked it. I feel like it had this symbolic meaning to that ending. I hate the fact that that Monroe just went off into the wilderness and they ended like, oh, she has like followers now. I was reading and Jeff Davis was like, oh, well, we wanted it to have continuity and we didn't want it to feel like the end and they're gonna have other adventures and yada yada da da da. But you could have done all of that with like finding Monroe. Like, she wasn't even integral to the hunters wanting to hunt people like that. Like, you didn't do a good enough job of convincing me that she would be an actual leader for me to believe that there are just hunters all over the world who are listening to Monroe. So, and my other slight pet peeve, where was Deaton? Deaton was in like one episode in season 6 and did he ever come back? Like, he came back towards the end for like one more episode and it was never explained. I was reading up on it and it said that the actor was doing whatchamacallit, The Walking Dead, but still, it was just very weird. Like, I didn't know that while I was watching and his disappearance wasn't explained in any way, so I'm just like, whoa. Okay, we're gonna get into characters. I'm gonna try to be very, very short. I'm gonna do like a paragraph at most because I don't want to rant. There are like 3 characters that I'm gonna rant about for an extended period of time, but I'm just going to talk about these characters. So here we go. Kate Argent, she was good for what she was good for. When she came back in season 4, what was it, season 4 or 3? The Deadpool. Season 4, when she came back in season 4, I was like, oh, okay, there's Kate. But she wasn't a major part of any of the storylines. Well, I guess when she took Scott to Mexico, but she was cool, I guess. The only thing is, as I said before, I want to try to figure out how old she was with all of that bullshit, because it's not adding up and the math is not mathing. The math that I'm calculating is just looking very, very weird and very suspicious. Gerard Argent, what a character. What a character. That was a character. That was a character. That, his act, I have nothing to say. Nothing. Like, I hated his character, but at the same time, it was very, very necessary. It's like one of those characters that you just, ugh, like, I hate you, but you're doing such a good job of making me hate you. But Gerard, amazing. We move. Liam Dunbar. I think Liam was cool. I think in terms, I think his evolution towards being like the next alpha, like there's this feeling in the show that Liam is gonna take Scott's place and then he's gonna be the quote-unquote next alpha of his group of friends, because he was out here making decisions and he was out here doing the damn thing. That was good. I liked Liam a lot. Next character, Deucalion. I was so upset when Deucalion died in season 6, because I'm just like, this didn't need to happen. He didn't need to die. There was no reason for him dying. I know when Monroe and whoever, when they shot him, Scott was like, oh, they're declaring war, but like, it's just, there was no reason for him to die. That was an unnecessary death. It wasn't like, it was just meh. It was so bad, because I ended up really, really liking Deucalion, because I think his character, like, from the way that he was in season 3, he had a reason to be the way that he was, and I enjoyed seeing him help Scott and the others. And when he died, I was just like, aw. Who's next? I literally just have the names in front of me and I'm just like picking who do I want to do next. Malia Tate, let's do Malia. I have nothing negative or positive to say about Malia. I think they did a pretty good job with her character since she was a coyote for, I think it was like 10 years or something, 8 years. She was a coyote for 8 years, so she wasn't aware of she doesn't have the same sensibilities that humans do when they interact with each other. So she was just brash and she was just like saying whatever she felt like whenever she wanted to. I think her relationship with Styles was kind of weird because why are you... First of all, they were having sex in the basement of Icon when they were looking for documents on... What were they? When they were looking for documents on the Nogitsune and stuff. So they were just... I was like, okay, this is a weird place to have sex. Like, we're in a dire situation, but okay, I guess. Get it how you live it. I did not like Kate and Malia. Not Kate and Malia. I did not like Scott and Malia 1 second. I thought that was low down grimy. I feel like if they wanted Scott, I think the intention was to have a love interest for Scott by the time the show ended. I feel like if they wanted to have a love interest for Scott, they should have brought Kira back. But we'll get into it. I felt like they should have brought her back because there was no, even in season 6A, there was no like chemistry. I mean, the actors did a Shelley Henning, I think her name is, and Tyler Posey, I guess they did a good job at portraying the romance, but I thought that was like low down and grimy because he didn't even tell Styles that he was dating Malia. So he didn't tell Scott anything. I mean, Styles anything. Like, how you just move in on your friend's ex-girlfriend like that? But we move. I guess he thought that she was with, whatchamacallit, that Scott was with, that Styles was with Lydia. So there goes that. Noah Stilinski, he's the ops. I don't even know why I chose to put him here. He's a very stupid police officer. That's like synonymous, but he's just very stupid. He's just very, like, why are you trying to operate within the law when you know there's supernatural shit going on here? When Jiang and Terry killed that hunter and they were telling him the hunter tried to kill them, like, what are you talking about? And he was like, oh no, well, there are 2 dead, they killed 2 people. I'm like, if you don't shut the fuck up. Like, he was just like the ops in every single situation. Like, they're trying to save people here and then you're hindering them all of the time. I did not like that man whatsoever. It was just terrible. It was terrible to witness on my computer screen. Theo Reckon. I liked Theo. I did. The character development of Theo, they had 2 seasons and they did a good job within those two seasons. I think what helped tremendously is that I think in one of the episodes that he came back, they were showing that he was essentially being tortured with like his sister when Kira like sent him down there, wherever she sent him. He was being tortured, so that kind of like gave me like a little bit of sympathy for him. And then the fact that he helped out with the Wild Hunt, and then he also helped out with what was that afterwards? The Wild Hunt, the Anukati. See, I can't even remember. The fact that he helped out there kind of secured his like little place in there. They did a good job because like at the beginning when they were showing that whole compilation of him just sleeping in his car and the police, he's literally just like sleeping in his car in parking lots and the police is knocking on his window and his door. If y'all like, that just made me so mad. That made me so mad. It made me feel bad for Theo, but it also made me like hate all of the sheriffs and all the deputies and stuff. So yeah, I think they did a good job with that. I ended up really liking Theo in the end. I like the juxtaposition of his character and Liam's character. I think they'd work well together. I would like to, if they end up doing anything, I think that's like one and done. But like, if anything were to happen, I would like to see a situation where Theo and Liam come together and do some shit. That would be very, very fun. Next character that I want to speak about, let's do Kira. As I said before, I think there was, I don't know what happened to Kira. I wanted to like her, and I think I did, but there was something off because she never actually felt like a part of the group. It was like, she was Scott's girlfriend, but she wasn't a part of the actual group, if that made sense. Like, it was her and Scott, and then everybody, like, they tried to include her. It always just felt exclusionary. I'm just very, like, not like on purpose, but it just felt like it was her and Scott, and then Scott and everybody else. Like, Scott was the glue between her and everybody else, whereas with Allison, for example, or even Malia, she kind of integrated into the group straight away. So there's that. I'm so upset that they didn't bring her back for something, because it felt like when she went off with the Skinwalkers that she would have come back, or at least would have had like a storyline. And I was reading up on this because I was so confused. So with Crystal and who left? Isaac's actor, I can't remember his name. I think his name is Dylan. I'm so sorry. They actually wanted to leave the show, and then Arden Cho was just like, they just didn't recast. They just left Kira in the wilderness with the Skinwalkers, and I was like, that sucks. There could have been so much more done with Kira. Like, if they could have done something, but they chose not to. Next character, Melissa McCall. I liked Melissa. I have nothing else to say. She's a cool mom. She's a cool mom. She helped Scott through a lot of like inner turmoil. And if you're gonna have his mom be in on his secret, there's that, like, she knows what's going on in his life, so she's able to give him some solid advice. I like the fact that she always supported him when he was out doing a bunch of shit, and towards the end of the season she just came into her own. She was up and down in all of these terrains with Chris Argent, and she was out here doing the damn thing. So we love Melissa McCall. While we're on Melissa, I feel like I'm speeding through like a bullet train. I just don't want this video to be too long. Chris Argent, a character, a man, just like, his character development is one of the best. He's one of my favorite characters. If I had to do like top 3 characters, he is one of them. He would be like he'd be number 3. The character development is crazy. He went from being like hating Scott, hating all of the werewolves, to just being like a second father figure, being the person that they went to for help. He was just great. I really enjoyed it. And then towards the end, he and Melissa were having that relationship. I thought that was so appropriate. That was so very fucking cute. So we love Chris Argent in my household. Yeah, I think he went through one of the biggest transformations. He lost his wife and his daughter and his sister and his father, but I don't think he and Gerard were that close to begin with. But he lost all of these people, and then he just ended up coming out stronger and on top in the end. So really love Chris. Who are we doing next? Let's do Lydia Martin. Lydia, I was scared for Lydia so many times. There were a lot of moments where I thought Lydia was going to die. There were a lot of moments where I was just like, I feel like Lydia had it the hardest in the show, to just go around finding dead bodies and not knowing why you're finding the dead bodies, to be able to tell when somebody is going to die, and then if you do, like, figuring out what to do about that I think I'm like Lydia, just hearing voices in your head, I'm just like I'm like surprised that she didn't go mad from the entire thing. So, and Lydia's smart. Lydia has like an IQ of like 170. She's like she's a literal genius, and Styles being the only person that knew she was a genius. But yeah, I'm just very I liked her, and Holland Roden did like a very good job portraying her. She had this specific face though. It was like every time she was in distress, there was this specific face that she would do, and it would make me crack up all of the time. So there was that, but other than that, I really enjoyed Lydia as a character. Next character that we're going to get into is Mr. Derek Hale himself. Now, I do not like I live in downtown Toronto. Something just pops off. Yeah, I am not the one who fawns over the whole bad boy leather jacket wearing type dude. So I didn't like Derek in the beginning. I think where it all started to change was when Derek started to change. What are y'all doing? I think it all started to change. Can I film? I think it all started to change for me when Derek started to change. So when he lost Erica and Boyd, I feel like that was a huge turning point in his character, and I like the whole evolution of his and Scott's relationship, of them being brothers. So when Derek started to change, that is when I started to like Derek. He started to smile more, he started to have a better sense of humor, and he just laughs a bit more, and I like that, and I laugh a lot too. So yeah, that is my opinion on Mr. Derek Hale. Overall, I liked him. I liked him as he started to grow and develop. Next, we're gonna get into Scott McCall. I have feelings about Scott. I think the way that they tried to make his character this whole like moral holier than it came off as very holier than thou character, kind of like in certain situations, like he was able to like boost group morale, and it was just a lot. But I feel like at certain points they're just like, Scott this, Scott that, we want Scott. It was just a lot. It was just a lot at some points, and I honestly don't know how I feel about Scott McCall. That is the conclusion after like 6 seasons. I get what they're trying to do. I understand that he kind of like grew into the role a bit, because when we met Scott in season 1, that is not the same Scott that we met in season 6, and that's what you want. You want your character to be able to grow into the role, and I feel like he did that. I feel like he grew into the role of being an alpha, because of like him being a true alpha and everything. But still, at the end of the day, it's the whole like moral thing for me. Like, I like a good morally gray character. You can see where I'm going with this. That's like the reason that I liked Theo and why I love one of the next characters that I'm going to tell you about. But I like characters that have like a sort of like evolution. It feels like Scott was, I'm not gonna say that he was one note throughout the entire season, but like I feel like, and this was about like season 2, like he stepped into this role and he didn't really change and or evolve throughout the entire season. But then again, that's just my humble opinion. Scott McCall is not one of my favorite characters, but like he's there and he's good for what he does. Now we're getting into the stars of the show, in my humble opinion. So I said Chris was one of like top 3 of my characters, and this second one, Peter Hale. You just have to, Peter is like, you have to stand, or at least I had to stand. Peter is a character that you just love to hate, and then you're just gonna have to deal with it, because the things that they were able to do with his character, and this is why I didn't even put him in the category of villain, because I feel like, okay, so I know I keep referencing Pretty Little Liars all the time, but that's the only video that I have up that like goes with this entire series of me watching a full show and then coming back with my review. But Peter is what I needed Mona Vanderwaal to be. If you watch that video, I said something along the lines of they should have used Mona as like this like frenemy. And that is exactly what Peter was. Peter was a very morally great character ever since he came back. Like, he was the alpha in season 1, and I already said that I did not agree with his methods. I saw the vision though. That was just me. Season 2, like, what happened in season 2? He was just walking around. Peter came back and he was just walking around in Derek's loft, just walking around. Season 3, same thing, just walking around. They'd go to Peter when they needed help with like certain things. So for example, when they were trying to find out like what the Kanima was, Peter had a bestiary, so they were just like going to Peter when they needed certain things, which is what they should have done with the same thing that the Liars were doing with Mona, essentially. But Peter was more like, he was on the sidelines, but you never knew which way Peter was gonna flip. Peter just does things for his own self-interest, and that's the beauty of Peter. Like, it's so morally gray. You don't know what he's gonna do. In season 4, I expected that. I was like, why would you trust Peter? Just like very like, why would you trust Peter? And then they put him in Icon House towards the end, and he wasn't there for season 5. And then when he came back for season 6, I was like, okay, this is what I have been missing for these seasons, because it's been great. Like, he's such a great character. I really do think that he cared about Malia, his daughter, even though they didn't tell us why Talia took his memory about having a kid. But I can't imagine Peter raising a child though. But he really did care about Malia. He helped them when it came to the wild hunt, but I honestly just think that was partly because he cared about Malia. I think at one point he really did start to care about Scott. He did, because there was no reason for him to actually, if he didn't care, then there would have been no reason for him to drag like Styles' key back for the Jeep. So yeah, I was just like, Peter's a cockroach. Peter's never gonna die. That man, his self-preservation is so high, and I love that for him, and I love that for me. The actor who portrayed Peter, he did such a good job. His sarcasm, his comedic timing, everything. I loved everything about Peter. And now we get to my baby. Now we get to my king, my beige king. I have, since finishing Teen Wolf, I have made a list of everything that Dylan O'Brien has ever been in, and I plan to watch it. Dylan O'Brien is now one of my clients, and what I mean by that is that we need to start giving him some jobs. We need some Oscar type roles, Emmy type roles for Dylan O'Brien, because he can carry, he can handle it. Styles, the character of Styles, I told you, season 6 just felt empty. Season 6 wasn't giving at all, and I think, at least for me, one of the major reasons as to why that was is because Dylan O'Brien wasn't there. He's the star of the show. I'm sorry to everybody else, but the act, it's just the way that he played that character, Styles as a character, is like a very good like juxtaposition to Scott. Styles is smart. Styles is funny. His comedic timing is impeccable. I was reading, and it said that Dylan O'Brien originally wanted to try out for the role of Scott, and then he read the script, and then he decided to do Styles, and it makes complete and utter sense, because phenomenal character design. Dylan O'Brien is like a great actor, and when I tell you season 3B, the season that he carried, he took he put it on his shoulders, and he said, okay, we're gonna do this, and we're going to do it well, and he ate ate and he left no crumbs. He left nothing on the plate for anybody else, and that is in and of itself a performance, an actor. We need to get him some new jobs. This is now my full-time job. He is now my client, and Yep. So those were the characters, at least the characters that I cared about. Oh, I should mention Allison. I don't know why I don't have her here. Allison was a cool character, I guess. Hunter-wise, I like her. I like the way that she died. That's like a weird thing to say about somebody. And I also liked her kind of, her evolution into the hunter that she was. She was pretty cool. Her, like, yeah, but I don't have too much to say on her.
She's got a point. She's an icon. She's a legend, and she is the moment. Now, come on now.
And my closing thoughts about this show, I loved how they incorporated supernatural elements like into everything. So the Anukati is a real thing. Are the Dread Doctors real? I don't know. Werewolves, obviously. The Hellhound, the Banshee. All of these supernatural elements that they blended seamlessly into the storylines. I liked the way that they did that. The Kitsunes, obviously. I liked how they did that. I was kind of like, I was surprised at the fact that this show didn't have vampires, but then when I sat back and thought about it, I was like, of course it didn't have vampires, because at the time you had Twilight, the whole werewolves and vampire situation with Twilight. Then you had, Vampire Diaries. I don't know why I did that. You have the Vampire Diaries, which was also like a vampires and werewolves type situation. So I'm assuming that they didn't want to oversaturate what they were doing, and more power to them. That was great. But also, while thinking about Twilight, I'm just like, it's so weird that Twilight didn't have hunters. That's like so, the things that you could have done with that. Instead we got the Volturi, but we move. And the last thing that I wanted to touch on, I like the fact that there was a lot of representation for LGBTQ plus relationships on screen. There wasn't a lesbian relationship. I would have liked to see that, but in terms of there was a lot of like LGBTQ plus representation on Teen Wolf, which is a plus in any way. Would I recommend this show? 100% yes. Although it started getting weird by season 5, I feel like that's the natural progression of any show, and for what it's worth, I think it was a good, like, if that was like season 6, I would have, personally, I would have liked to see them, how do I say, I would have liked to see them, English is not coming to me. I would have liked to see them redeem season 6 by doing like a short 7-episode season, just so that the show could have ended on a good note, in my opinion. But I mean, you win some, you lose some. I got season 3B at the end of the day, and that's just that. I got season 3B, and I guess I'm not allowed to complain because of season 3B. But yeah, I do recommend this show. Overall, I would give it, I mean, I could add and divide, but I don't think that that'll be like a honest representation. I would give Teen Wolf a solid 7.5 out of 10 based on how I'm feeling today, and I could be persuaded to give it an 8. Maybe. But yeah, that was my video. I am scared because I don't know how long I've been filming, and it's gonna be a long one. I hope I can get it under 2 hours, but it's not looking too good for me. But anyways, thank you so very much for watching. Subscribe if you want to see what I do next. Honestly, I don't even know what I'm gonna do next. I'm faking it till I make it at this point. But yeah, I will see you in the next one. Let me know what you think about Teen Wolf. Have you seen it in the comments down below? Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.